Welcome to the Deconstructing Data podcast and live stream. I'm Jessie Lezak, CMO at BDEX, along with BDEX's founder and CEO, David Finkelstein. What's new, David?
Hey, Jessie. Keeping busy. Each time I look at the calendar, I can't believe how close we're getting to the holidays. It's kind of scary. This year's flying by.
Totally. It's totally. I don't even know where this year went. It's just went so fast.
Yeah.
It's like it was just January, but it's going to be January again here. But before we get to the holidays, we have another a great episode planned for today. And we're thrilled to welcome on Janet Barker-Evans. She's the Chief Creative Officer at AbelsonTaylor Group. Welcome to the show, Janet.
Hello. Great to be here.
Yeah, we're glad to have you on the show. We're excited to get into this conversation. Janet, thank you for joining us. We'd love to have you to kick it off for us. Give our viewers and listeners a chance to get to know you a little bit, a little history about you, and sort of your journey and what led you to become Chief Creative Officer at Abelson.
Sure. So I've been in the advertising business for a while, and I've had the chance to work across every channel you can imagine, right? TV, digital, CRM, experiential, mobile. I've always loved building ideas that move people. And that curiosity about what makes people tick, about how creativity really drives behavior, it's kind of been my through line from the very beginning. And I've been digital since the very beginning. When most people thought digital was like an afterthought, I've always been into that. I took computer coding classes in high school. I've always been a little geeky on that. And that same mindset kind of brought me to AI and all these new technologies we enjoy today, not just because they're shiny, really because they help us go deeper, faster, smarter. I see them as great creativity tools. And that blend of creativity, innovation, empathy, storytelling, it's what brought me to AbelsonTaylor Group. So I've led, like I said, clients across a lot of industries, but here at AbelsonTaylor, as their Chief Creative Officer, I lead a great team of thinkers and makers, and we're focused on health and wellness brands that genuinely improve people's lives. And our mission is to help the world choose better health. And, you spend a lot of time with a lot of clients, and when you can actually have a positive impact in someone's life, that's amazing, right? It's what I love most. We're not just doing work that looks good. We're doing work that feels good, work that connects with people, that matters, and that makes a difference. So for me, that's the reason that I like doing what I do.
I love that.
Yeah, awesome. And I love the fact that this is an interesting conversation we're going to have today, because we talk about data a lot. We talk about sort of, the importance of creative, but the intersection of the two is really interesting. And it's something that we don't always talk about. And, seeing data as something that is creative and can be creative and how it drives creativity, I think that's really, that's a really interesting conversation, for sure. And so let's talk about let's jump into it. Our first topic is AI and marketing, and transforming engagement and strategy. I'd love to get your take on this.
Yeah, I love this topic, right? For a lot of people, AI still feels like this scary big disruptor. I hear it all the time from friends. It's going to take my job. It's going to do this. It's going to do this.
Right.
But for creatives, it's one of the most exciting things to happen in a really long time. And it's best. It doesn't replace strategy or storytelling. It amplifies them, right? It gives us new ways to uncover insight. It helps us generate options. We can experiment faster. I was an early user of Adobe Firefly, and it's come such a long way. We were talking earlier how fast AI gets better. But it can help with everything from content personalization to spotting patterns in audience behavior we might miss, just the human eye might miss on its own, or that might take a significant amount of time to find. But the thing is, it's still just a tool, right? The real transformation happens when you pair AI with the human insight, the emotional intelligence, the storytelling. And I think that's when we stop just marketing at people and we start connecting with them, because we're not just using AI to increase speed, but to increase our relevance. We're really using it in a way that supports creativity and doesn't stifle it. So yeah, it's transforming engagement and strategy, but it's not replacing people. I think it's about releasing them. Spend more time thinking, imagining, and creating work that's going to move people.
I love that.
Yeah, I like what you said there about it. It helps us basically just connect with people better,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
that's important, right? I mean, that's something that I think over the years, like people have been trying to, with different types of ad targeting and the data behind it, like it's become more and more important
Yeah.
to not just, advertise to people, but to connect with them. And like the data is enabling us to connect with them better because we can understand either at the individual level or at the cohort level, we can understand people better. And
Yeah.
therefore brands can connect with them better, right?
Yeah. And we built this year, we built an AI platform here called Lexi. And we use the data from 40 plus years of Abelson-Taylor's Group's intelligence and talking to doctors and talking to patients and talking to caregivers and all of that data and all the things that we know about how to connect with people. And we put that in there so that that can help strategists, writers, anyone. It can help them create better messaging to target the audience, to understand the audience better, right? To build on all of that. So that, and writers have done this forever. Like we think about a lot of different ways. We think with empathy, but sometimes when you could take that data and unlock it with an AI tool that can serve that up for you and help you create those messages, I think it helps. It doesn't releases you. It helps you go faster and it helps you create more connection sooner.
Yeah, I agree. And so what do you think the future looks like? Like, how are we going to be able to use this to better engage with people beyond what we're able to do today?
It's interesting because, like I was saying, every 3 months, stuff gets so much better.
Yeah,
And
right.
anyone that spends time with AI, you still need the human in the loop. You still get weird stuff sometimes.
Yeah.
And if I think about how far it's come, I think the future is going to be more accessibility, easier to access, right? And not just access to some of the data, but being able to take insight out of that, right? And we can collect all the data we want, but it doesn't necessarily do anything unless we apply thought to it and we're able to pull insight out of that. So I think that in the future, we're going to see better understanding of what the data means and how it can be translated into behavioral cues, right? Every point of data is a human being, right? It's a human being doing something. It's an action someone's taken. And when we connect the dots on that, and I hope that in the future we start connecting those dots faster, right? That we're able to pull things in real time. We know immediately when someone's done something and how to respond, and the AI can tell us, they responded to this, let's do this, and that we can do that and have that more accessible, I think, than it is today. It exists in larger models, but maybe easier to access.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that, that's where we're going, right? Everything's happening sort of faster.
Yeah.
And I think that the future will enable us to take actions a lot faster,
Yeah.
communicate with consumers faster because
Yeah.
of that. And so we can, to your point, we'll be able to sort of see those behaviors and then act on them much quicker. That's a process that, right, in the past was like a 30, 60, 90, right?
Right.
Like you'd get the data, you'd collect it, you do something with it, you analyze it, you hand it off to somebody else. They're put it in a spreadsheet, and like, 30 or 60 or 90 days later, you're like, oh, okay, look, this is what we found. And now it's gotten to the point where like you can look at that, data, and the next day, like you could be running a campaign and the next day you're getting stats and you're starting to look at what's going on previous day. And so I think, to the point of this whole conversation, the future will enable us to pretty much do that in real time.
Yeah.
Like you'll be able to see what's happening, with your campaign, and then tweak it. And then, maybe the AI would be tweaking it for you and saying,
Right.
okay, well, we're seeing this going on, so we're going to go and we're going to change it and we're going to do this with it. And so
Pivot.
we'll be able to pivot more in more of a real-time fashion, so that, we're driving outcomes, almost immediately.
And the thing about speed that I think is interesting too, it does help us do things faster, but when it helps us do things faster, hopefully it's freeing us up to think more about what could be possible, right? To be more creative, to be more innovative, to spend that time thinking about other opportunities, right? It doesn't just speed it for the sake of speed, it frees you up to think about other things that you could improve or other things that you could work on.
Yeah,
like being more creative.
Like be more creative.
Yeah. And I'm curious, like, how are the creatives using AI?
We use AI all the time. So what's interesting, you guys know AI has been around a long time, right? Media has been driven by AI for years, but generative AI, we're able to, and again, it blows your mind how fast this moves. We're able to come up with conceptual ideas. And if you think about Adobe, Firefly, Midjourney, Sora, any of them, if you think about them as being a creative partner and you have an idea, and just like with a human partner, you sit down and you explain it and they can help visualize something for you. And, you know, we laughed in the beginning about how poorly AI rendered hands and fingers. It's gotten a lot better. But if you can describe what you're thinking, the AI can give you imagery that at least gets you in the ballpark and gets you to think differently and presents options to you might not have considered. And the same thing with the story. If you have conversations with the AI and if you and your partner sit down and try different things, it allows you to explore areas you might not have. And the conversational nature of it, especially with GPTs, takes you to a place where, well, I didn't think about that. Well, what about this? And what about this? And that curiosity and questioning take you to really amazing places. And creatively, it lets us create the art and the visualization faster, right? And clients, when you bring them an idea, they want to see what it looks like. So we're able to do that a lot faster than we could in the past with a lot of the generative AI tools in the art space and with the storytelling in even the textual narrative space.
Very cool.
Yeah, so cool. I love the creative part of it. So interesting. But let's get into data management and unlocking smarter marketing insight data.
Yeah.
Up there.
Yeah. And I think when the data becomes powerful, as we were saying, when it's tied to real human behavior. You know, you were just saying a minute ago, when you could see an action someone took the day before, when you know that something's working or not working, just as important, right? The ability to pivot, not wait the 30, 60, 90, not just even thinking about who clicked something or opened something, but why did they do it? And thinking more deeply about what they're feeling. What do they need? What problem are we going to help them solve? And that's when data becomes like creative fuel and not just reporting of data points, right? And so we at ATG, we like to dig into that data and look for like emotional breadcrumbs, the signals that tell us how to connect in more relevant, meaningful ways. So in healthcare, we're in the healthcare space. It's very personal. Wellness is emotional. Sicknesses and disease, these are tough things. And so we have to pull those insights forward. And if we don't, we're just adding noise. And we need to connect with people on a deeply personal and emotional level. And so AI can absolutely help us with that. Surface patterns, reduce friction. But a lot of that insight still requires instinct. And it still requires that human in the loop. And so great marketing comes when you have both. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I always think you need to build teams who can translate and not just track data, people who can look at a dashboard and say, well, here's the story, here's the opportunity, here's what we see, here's how we can move, right? Ask those questions. What do we think this means? Not just what do we see, but what do we think is underneath that? What do we think we can unlock with that? And I think that's where you get smarter strategy from thinking differently about insight.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And further into like sort of the data management, like how do you deal with sort of the challenges like a lot of people deal with when it comes to data management? Like if everybody's collecting so much data these days, and I feel like there's often sort of this over collection where people are collecting more data than they really need, and then they become overwhelmed, right? They get just overwhelmed by the volumes of data instead of really focusing on the data that's truly needed to generate the outcomes. And how do you guys deal with those?
Data everywhere and not an insight to be found, right? Yeah, you know, we have whole departments here that help with our planning department, our ES department, MI, that dig into the data. And yeah, they filter through a lot of stuff. And understanding that it's not just the collection, it's the application of it, I think is really important, right? Mm-hmm. Being able to look at it and decide what's important, what's not. Because you're right, we collect a lot of data. Everybody does. And everything isn't meaningful, right? Many things are true, but it doesn't mean it's always meaningful. And all that data can be overwhelming. Mm-hmm. It can be very overwhelming. Even, as creatives, we look at a creative brief and sometimes they give us too much information, right? And there's this old saying, give me the freedom of a tightly defined brief, right? I had a client that used to say that because you need constraints, right? Creativity needs constraints. So sometimes when there's too much stuff thrown at you, deciding of all these things that are true, what is most important, that's what you have to sift through and think about. And, so we work with our partners in the other departments and try to dig through that and try to be meaningful about that and understanding what are the most important things that are relevant. And there's a lot of us that have to dig into that before we start saying, okay, these are the things that matter. These are the things that we're going to put forward. And these are the things that we need to act on.
100%.
Yeah, one of the challenges.
Yeah. So anything else on data management and unlocking smarter marketing insight data? I heard, and tell me if there's any truth to this, I heard that dashboards are like becoming less popular now that we have AI. Have you guys heard anything about that?
It's interesting. I was having a meeting earlier today about dashboards, and I don't know that they're becoming less important. I think it's more what we put in them that matters and how we serve that information up. And are we serving it up in a dashboard that's meaningful and actionable? And are we using AI to make sense of it versus just a dashboard that reports facts? Is it something that's been curated to provide insight, right? AI can do a great job of that. Take all this data. Right? We do this with so many things. You do this in your personal life. I've uploaded all kinds of information to a custom GPT I made and asked it to arrange a bunch of information for travel. I've done it for healthcare stuff, right? AI does a great job of making sense of a lot of different facts and data. So dashboards in the future will be far more intuitive and far more insight driven because AI is going to be able to filter through it all and not just show you everything on the dashboard, but show you what's meaningful and show you what it means. And that also requires the human being to help curate that, right? The people behind it that say, well, these are the things we're seeing, and asking the questions of, do we think that means this or this, and filling in some of those blanks, right? So here's the story, right? Here's the story. It's not just these facts. Here's the opportunity. Here's where we think we have an ability to shift something. So I think dashboards are going to change a lot. And I think that they're going to be more, probably more useful, more intuitive, more specific to insight instead of just data.
Yeah. I mean, even what we use, like we use QuickSight on AWS, and we have dashboards that we've built, and certain reports and things like that. But there's tools now within it that allow you to ask it questions. And so you can literally, you might be looking at, some report, but you can literally just, ask the AI questions about the data, and then it'll go and analyze it and give you some insights about it. And I think that that's kind of what's really powerful about it as well, is you can dig into the results.
Yeah, that's the beauty of LLMs, right? We can have a conversation with the AI about the data, right? You can ask those questions. You could say, well, that's unusual. Why might that be? Or you can ask, I see this happening and this happening. And you can query it in that way. And LLMs let us do that, right? You don't just have to sit there and wonder. It can recognize some patterns, or you can say, what if I considered this? It can actually answer that based on the data. In that conversational way, you're right. That's just such a great way to engage with it in our more human terms, right? Having a conversation about it, having a discussion versus just looking at the data on a screen.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely. All right. Well, we're zooming right through this topic. Is there anything else on data management or unlocking smarter marketing insight data either you might add? Any actionable insights for any marketers tuning in? Like, if they could take one action today to have smarter marketing insight data, what is that action?
I think it would be asking what it means instead of just what it says. Right? And as the creative person, and I told you guys before the show, I used to data train all my creatives where I worked before, and our chief data officer said art directors ask tougher questions than anyone else. And I think that's the curiosity of creatives, because you see patterns and you see things and you think differently about stuff. And when you look at data and you ask it questions and you try to figure out the story behind it, and you try to imagine the human being behind it, right? In the healthcare space, let's say we're talking about a patient with a rare disease. We do several rare disease brands here. And you look at a data point and you think, well, what is that person going through? What's happening in their life that this is what I'm seeing? And you start to ask better questions. You start to think about who the person is, who the people are behind the data. And that can help you understand the story better and maybe see the opportunities and the gaps that you wouldn't see if you just looked at the data. You start to ask more questions about it.
Nice,
Cool.
for sure.
Yeah.
Well, let's transition into our third topic, which is all about targeting and reaching the right consumer. So this is something we talk about a lot. And so curious to hear your perspective on targeting and reaching the right consumers, Janet.
You know, it's so incredibly powerful today, targeting. We can reach people. We were talking before the show about, the ability to touch people on different devices in different places. We know how to do that today. But it's really not enough to just reach the right consumer, right? We have to reach them with the right message in the right moment, and it has to have the right emotion. And that's where magic happens, when the data and the creativity can work together. You might know someone's demographics or their location or their health condition or behavior pattern, but what are they feeling? And from a creative standpoint, that's the tension that we look for, right? That's the tension that helps us create better work, create better messaging, understand them to deliver, different marketing to them. And precision like that really matters. In the health and wellness space that we work with here at ATG, that resonance is, that resonance with the patient or with the doctor. We talk a lot with HCPs. That's what actually changes behavior. We use targeting to find people who need us, but then we have to use storytelling to show them we see them. I was talking earlier about Lexi, our AI platform, and one of the things built into there is an understanding of the heuristics and the shortcuts that HCPs make when they're making decisions. And you have to understand that. And you have to understand how doctors think and what drives their decision making in order to tell stories to them and in order to connect with them. And so that platform helps our writers do exactly that. It helps them tell the right story, understand the mindset that HCP is in, and deliver the right message that's going to get them to act, that's going to change their behavior. And so, I always, the great targeting doesn't just stop at who, it digs into why. When you understand the why somebody's behaving a certain way, right? When you understand that a doctor has a confirmation bias, and there are certain fields of medicine where heuristics and biases are prevalent for a very good reason. When you understand that, you can either work with them or you can work against them, depending on what you're trying to do. And then you're able to create work that doesn't just show up in someone's feed, but it actually lands with them emotionally.
Yeah, definitely. And what were you going to say, David?
I was just going to say, that's a perfect example of the importance of creative and data coming together, because I'm in the data business, not the creative business, but my job is to help you reach the right people, right? But then the creative side is okay, it's the creative's job to essentially move them, right? And communicate with them in a way that, that sort of gets them to respond and react, engage. And so, you can't just look at one or the other. You have to have the combination, right? If either one of us can't be successful without working together. You can have great data, but if you don't have great creative, then it doesn't matter. You can have great creative, but you don't have great data, it doesn't matter. It really works hand in hand.
Yeah, the recipe requires all of it, right? It requires the data. It requires the translation of that data into insight. It requires somebody understanding what it means. And then, yes, it requires the creativity to come in over the top and say, how do we use this? And how do we talk to them? And what do we know about them to deliver that right message? It's the perfect.
I like how you talked about how having the creative dig into the emotion, because people buy for emotional reasons. So yeah, it's the part that gets missed in marketing a lot, is really going back and thinking about what is your audience thinking when they wake up in the morning? How do they move? What kind of clothes do they wear? Like really feel their, what they're experiencing. And that's what creatives really do well. And it's such a good point that David made too, because I feel like I've seen so many times where marketers go run ads and then it's like, it doesn't work. Okay, so who are we going to go after? Are we going to go after the data? Or are we going to go after the creative? Like, which one didn't work?
Right. Which wasn't working?
Yeah, exactly. And it's really both. You can't say, one or the other, because they have to be together as a team. David, is there any way like creatives could use the data to understand better even the emotion? Like, so say we want to target like women on Pinterest between ages 30 and 40, but we're curious, what are they into right now? What are they curious about right now? How do I feel their emotions? Like, can the data tell me that?
Yeah, it's really interesting you say that, because it's one of the things that we've been looking into is sort of how we can use AI to analyze the data to not just like look at data points, right? Not just looking at demographics and not just looking at psychographics, but really doing more of a personality analysis using the AI to sort of determine personalities and understand consumers at the personality level. Because you may have, you may be able to reach certain people based on certain demographics, but really understanding the personality of the person helps you figure out how to communicate to them. So I'll give you an example. Like, we've done an analysis of different people, and when you categorize them based on the personalities, you can actually look at some of the information about the person and determine this is a creative person, or this is a pragmatic person. This is more of an analytical person. Well, just based on that data point alone, you can change your creative, right, to communicate to them differently. That the creative person wants to see something that's going to move them. The more pragmatic person they want to know what does it do and will it help me, right? And they just want to get to the answers. And so I think, to your point, you can essentially, rather than just looking at who the audience is as a whole, understand their personality and what moves them, so that you can target each of those different groups based on their personalities as well.
And David, I have to believe too, when you know what channels, what platforms people are on, when you see like that tells you so much about who they are too. Like, where are you going for information? Where do you spend time? That unlocks so much different insight into somebody. Somebody on Pinterest is very different than someone that spends more time on a Twitter, right? It gives you more insight into who they are. And the idea of being able to target, and frankly, you could target people on any platform. You learn a lot about them, and then you can go find them where they are. But a lot of those choices, your point, tell us a lot about who they are, what they lean into, and what angle we might take, or what story we may want to tell, or how we might want to tell it when we're creating, the creative assets to target them and talk to them.
Yeah, it's just because you're trying to reach women over 50, whatever, that live, in urban areas, doesn't mean that you communicate to them all the same, right?
Right.
Because they're going to be different. They're different people. And so you have to go a little, another step further and understand who those people are, not just based on the specific, the demographics themselves or the data points themselves. You have to understand the personalities too.
That's one of the things that always gets me excited about things like DCO, dynamic creative optimization, because you can be talking to a very broad audience, but based on how certain people behave, you're able to vary that message, right? You could send different messages. If this one doesn't work, up to this one. And that ability to personalize it based on who you're seeing. And when you see, if somebody responds, the next time somebody that looks like this comes in, send them this versus this. And and that's where AI and personalization, all that really start, coming into play, because you're able to do that on the fly and take something as broad as women over 50 in a certain market and really start to understand what's going to move what people, and how do we use that to drive further creative and even further media decisions too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So interesting. I didn't know that you could target based on personality type. So if, say, someone had a large audience, they were targeting like, I don't know, 1 million people, and they wanted to pull them off of smart TV and then, everyone who's watching this show on smart TV during the ad, we want to target them on whatever social media platform they're scrolling. So then could I have a different ad for my creatives who are watching it on TV, like all simultaneously happening at the same time? Like the creatives on Instagram are getting this image, the pragmatic people on LinkedIn are getting this image. Like, yeah, I'm just trying to paint the picture for the audience a little more.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a little work to be done there, but like we've done it, where we take the data that we have about an audience and literally analyze it from a personalities perspective and basically have it look at each of the consumers and categorize them. Literally, I think we had like 10 or 11 different personality types. And so that you can then take this audience that might be 1 million people, but break it down into, 10 groups instead. And then you're basically able to then target each of those, subcategories differently based on their personalities.
Smart TV.
That's where it gets so exciting for me as a creative, because having, all these people get a different ad served up to them. You remember when Hulu first came out with the ad selector, right? At the commercial break, you'd pick which one you want to see. Oh, yeah. Which would tell us a lot about that person if they chose one over the other. You saw the other one the next time around, but still, for me, for my money, I'm like, why can't I know which one you're going to respond to based on who you are and who I know you to be? Why can't I just deliver to you the right message? Why can't you get the right commercial for you based on who I know you to be, based on your personality, based on previous behavior, based on what I know about you? You should get a very different experience than someone else who behaves differently. That's the magic in my mind. That's the promise, actually, of great marketing. That's that one-to-one personalization. When I know enough about you, I can deliver something relevant to you. That's when I get mad, when I get an ad and I'm like, why was this served to me? This doesn't, right? Why? We live in a world where that doesn't have to happen.
Yeah, that drives me nuts. It really does. I'm just like, oh my gosh, why are they hitting me with this ad? This is ridiculous,
No. Right? They don't know me at all, and I shop there all the time. Yeah,
complete waste of money.
Yeah, and they don't realize they're offending their audience.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah,
yeah.
We need better data, because you're right. That stuff shouldn't be happening anymore. I get it a lot of time. It seems like in direct mail. I don't know if it's just like the old school marketers who are still using direct mail, which direct mail is having a comeback. So I'm all for direct mail, but I don't know if it's because direct mail, I don't know. They seem to not be using the right data.
Yeah. I just got something recently in the mail and it was like, I don't know, it was like something for like people that have babies or something like that. I don't even remember what it was. And it's like, my daughter's 23 years old, it's like, this is so poorly targeted.
You're really late. You're really late.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Late to the party.
Right. Wow. Yeah. Everyone needs to get their data in order, because it just gets really messy when they don't.
But and if you think about marketing waste, right? Marketing waste. Think about how much money is wasted because they didn't take the time to target. I mean, David's example is a good one. And it's like, no, like, spend the time to make sure it's going to somebody who's going to respond, right? I'm an old DM girl myself. I love direct. I love all of that stuff. So it's like, boy, what a wasted opportunity. What a wasted chance.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. And get those bots out of your data too, right? Like talking about waste. That's something that just comes to mind. But let's move into tech stack. So this is something we ask everyone who comes on Deconstructing Data. And we love to hear, what are some of your favorite tools that are empowering you and your team?
So when it comes to what the tech stack is, I've always loved that saying, don't build a tower you can't climb, right? And we talked about this earlier, all the data you can have, all the stuff you can have. And there's so many tools out there. There's a new one every day. Everything's promising efficiency, automation, personalization, you name it. But if your team's overwhelmed, or if the tech's not actually supporting your team, right? The creative and the strategic process, it's just shelfware. It's just a waste. And you see them get overwhelmed because there's always something new and you always think you're missing out. Oh, did you see this? Or, oh, there's VO, or all these things that keep happening. And so we've been very thoughtful in the last year. As I said, at ATG, we built our own AI platform, Lexi. I talked about that. It was really my labor of love in the last year. And it's not just another generative AI tool. It was really purpose built so that it could be helpful to people. It could be a single source of truth. And that means it understands how to help you talk to doctors, how to help you talk to patients, right? And it's grounded in a proprietary methodology. So it's not just ChatGPT, it's not just Gemini. And, we also built Gravitas, which is a synthetic persona platform that we've created synthetic personas for HCPs across pretty much every condition, every specialty. So you can talk to a cardiologist, a team of cardiologists. You start to forget that they're synthetic when you have conversations with them, but it allows our team to test ideas against these synthetic personas and to share concepts with them and see how they think about it. And it helps them move more quickly with more confidence. And of course, we still use all the generative art things. Like I said, we use Adobe, all that we're using SOAR in production. When we're doing stuff in our studio, we're using tons of stuff there. But there's always something new coming. You have to be purposeful about it so you don't overwhelm. And a lot of it, too, is not about replacing the creativity. It's really removing friction, right? How do we remove friction? How do we get people to think bigger and go deeper and kind of stay in the creative flow? So when I think about the right tech stack, it's really one that unlocks creativity and doesn't stifle it. And it gives, my team here superpowers, but it still lets them lead the way. Like human in the loop is so important. You can't, you have to have that human thinking and it frees them up. So, and the other thing is any tech stack, the best tools are the ones people want to use.
Yeah.
They're the ones that people engage with because they don't just make the work faster, they make it better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have tools sitting around that people aren't using, you better cut those.
Well, and right now that happens all the time. Somebody comes in, hey, I want a subscription to Flim Flam because it's new. Okay. So you're spending money on Flim Flam and they abandon that because something else comes across, right? And you can't chase every new shiny object.
Right.
Because there's a shiny new object every week.
All the time. Yeah.
Right? All the time. And then it's like, oh, did you hear about this? Did you hear? And so we have a whole innovation here team whose whole job is to track down all the new stuff and decide yay or nay, like where are we going on this one, or are we waiting, and we have a whole AI center of excellence here that leads into a lot of those tools because the requests come in all the time, right? We want this, we want that, and you have to curate that, right? You have to really be thoughtful about curating that. That's it's so critical because you will overwhelm people. And then people are spending too much time on too many pieces of technology, too many different tools. And then it's not helping reduce friction. It's actually overwhelming them and creating too many different places they have to look.
Yeah, it's true. We don't ever really hear about Adobe products on this show. I think that might
be
yeah, from the
creative. We got a creative here today.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Well, Adobe's great because, I was an early beta user of Adobe Firefly.
Okay.
And generative AI, it blew our minds. So this is like 3 years ago. Blew our minds. You would just take a photo, you could add, and my old partner took his house and created a patio and all this stuff in the photo, and you're just amazed at how well it did that. And it's like when anything new comes along and you're amazed at what it can do. And Adobe's also great because we have to think about safety for our clients. And if we're doing something, you have to make sure that they have usage rights for that. It's a critical thing in creative.
Mm-hmm.
And with Adobe, everything they do is based on Adobe stock. And so they give you the usage rights. You've probably seen headlines where Midjourney, people got in a lot of trouble for using a Midjourney piece of art commercially.
Yeah.
Well, we have to license other people's work. In the creative space, knowing who owns something is important. We hire artists and illustrators and directors. We hire people, musicians, and they own, some of their work. And when we license that, we have to know that it's safe for our client to use. And Adobe's made that really easy. And other people are catching up. But Adobe, and I think because Adobe's been just hand in glove with the creative industry for so long, we trust Adobe,
yes,
the way we trust Apple, right? So,
absolutely.
But yeah, they're at the forefront of that, and even in video and all of it. People are catching up. We all love Google VO and we love Midjourney as well for concepting. But yeah, Adobe's a big one for us.
This is really crazy because I used to spend so many hours in the one Adobe tool that every graphic designer would ever use, and now I can't even think of the name of it.
InDesign?
InDesign, but then there was also another one. Photoshop, yeah.
Photoshop, InDesign, After Effects.
Yes, yeah.
Illustrator, Adobe Illustrator.
they've been around since the beginning. I mean, I remember learning Adobe tools in high school.
Oh my gosh,
So
yeah.
they're like the big tech of
They are. They are the core
Yeah.
tech. Yeah, we absolutely have the full Adobe suite, and we play with that all the time. And they're improving stuff all the time. I mean, it's always just getting better and better. So we rely on them quite a bit. And what they've built into it is, like I said, they were the first in the Gen AI space where you could do it right within Photoshop, right within, the Firefly tool that they built too. And it's amazing. And like I said, every couple months you're like, oh my God, it's even better. And just when you think it can't get better, you're like, it's even better. They can do hands now without extra fingers.
Yes,
Exactly.
fingers. Yes, fingers, teeth, and eyes. Oh man. Well, this has been a really great episode, Janet. But in closing, would you like to tell listeners how they could reach out to you?
Yeah, sure. I think the easiest way to find me would be LinkedIn, right? You can just look for Janet Barker Evans, and I'm on LinkedIn. And if you want to learn more about AbelsonTaylor Group, you can go to AbelsonTaylorGroup.com and learn more about us and what we're doing.
Amazing.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Janet. This has been a great conversation. We appreciate you joining us on the show today.
It's been so much fun. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And Jess, I'll let you close it out then.
Awesome. And that I'll do. And as I do, I'll put a QR code on the screen. So if you're watching on video, you can scan that. Otherwise, if you're on podcast audio only, just go to bedex.com and click on the Talk to an Expert button, because we want to invite you to get powered by Bedex. And you heard us talking about data, so you should dig into your data. Bedex is the industry-leading identity graph, and it's the trusted foundation powering some of the top ad tech and martech platforms across the ecosystem. Just go to bedex.com. You'll see the logos that we're supporting. And our comprehensive identity resolution is driving results across every channel, from precision ad targeting and website visitor retargeting to direct mail campaigns, lead generation, turning anonymous website traffic visitors into actual actionable customer insights. Whether you're looking to enhance your targeting accuracy or recover abandoned carts, scale your lead generation efforts, there's just a ton you can do when you have accurate data. And Bedex delivers the most accurate identity resolution in the industry. And part of the reason we're able to do this so well is because we eliminate the bots and all the bad data that you're getting from all of these other places. And we're helping you clean that out so you're not wasting your ad budget and your marketing budget on fake and fraudulent data. So while we want to make sure to only give you the real verified people so that you're actually touching the people that you want to be reaching out to. So join some of those leading platforms who are using Bedex's data to power their success, and visit bedex.com and talk to an expert. Other than that, thank you again so much, Janet, for coming.
Thanks for having me, guys. This has been fun.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Janet.
Bye-bye.